I came home on a rainy Tuesday to find my key wouldn't turn in my own front door. When I finally knocked, my younger brother answered in his bathrobe, eating takeout from a box on my dining table, and said, "Mom said you're staying in the garage apartment from now on. We needed the master suite." For 6 months, I had let my parents move into the 4-bedroom suburban home I bought entirely with my own savings after my dad's business went under. But what started as temporary support quickly turned into a hostile takeover when they secretly moved my deadbeat brother in, changed the locks, and started talking about putting the deed in his name. They thought my quiet kindness was weakness. They thought family meant unlimited sacrifice without boundaries. They forgot one simple detail. My name was the only one on the title deed. Welcome to BT Revenge Tales. If you love stories of calculated payback and standing up to entitled family, hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and give this video a thumbs up. My name is Claire, and at 32 years old, I had built the life I always dreamed of. Working as a senior architectural designer in Chicago, I spent nearly a decade grinding through 80-hour workweeks, pinching pennies, and saving every single bonus. 2 years ago, that relentless discipline paid off when I closed on a gorgeous 4-bedroom craftsman home in a quiet, tree-lined suburb. It was entirely mine. No cosigners, no shortcuts. Just pure sweat equity and an ironclad title in my name. Then came the frantic phone call from my mother last winter. My dad's independent hardware business had gone belly up after months of mounting debt, leaving them facing imminent eviction and total bankruptcy. Standing in my spacious, quiet living room, looking at the empty guest rooms down the hall, guilt hit me hard. I loved my parents, and I couldn't bear watching them end up on the street. I told them they could move in, but under one firm, non-negotiable condition. It was strictly temporary. 6 months to clear their debts, reorganize their finances, and find a modest rental. At first, the arrangement seemed manageable, but the subtle shift in power started almost immediately. Within 3 weeks, my quiet sanctuary turned unrecognizable. I came home from work one evening to find my modern, minimalist living room completely overhauled. My framed architectural prints had been shoved into the garage, replaced by my mother's heavy velvet drapes and porcelain knickknacks cluttering every clean surface. When I confronted her, she waved my concerns away with an offended sigh, claiming she was merely making the house look like a proper family home instead of a sterile office showroom. The boundary stomping only escalated from there. My refrigerator was constantly cleared out, my high-end cookware was ruined, and dinner conversations turned into relentless interrogations about my personal life. My mother continuously criticized my single status, making passive-aggressive comments about how an unmarried woman had no real need for such a large house. Every dollar I spent on myself was scrutinized, with my dad chiming in that high-earning daughters had a moral duty to prioritize their parents over their selfish independence. My home no longer felt like mine. The real nightmare began after I returned from a 4-day corporate conference in Seattle. I unlocked the front door at midnight, dragging my suitcase inside, only to hear blaring television noise coming from down the hall. I walked into my dedicated home office, a space vital for my remote drafting projects, and froze. My dual-monitor workstation, drafting table, and blueprints were piled haphazardly in the hallway closet. In their place sat a gaming chair, an unmade futon, and my 26-year-old brother, Jason, passed out surrounded by empty energy drink cans. Jason had always been the golden child, floating through life without holding a job for more than 3 months. When I confronted my parents the next morning, furious, my mother immediately turned on the tears. She insisted Jason had just been wrongfully evicted and needed family solidarity for a fresh start. My protests were dismissed as cold-hearted and selfish. Within days, our utility bills skyrocketed, greasy takeout cartons covered my kitchen island, and my freeloading family treated me like an unwelcome guest paying their expenses. The absolute breaking point arrived on a torrential Tuesday evening. I had just finished a brutal 12-hour design presentation and drove home exhausted, craving a hot shower and quiet sleep. But when I inserted my brass key into the front deadbolt, it wouldn't even slide into the cylinder. I rattled the brass handle, confusion quickly turning into icy dread. I pounded on the wood until the door cracked open. Jason stood in the entryway, wearing a stained bathrobe, holding a slice of cold pizza. With an arrogant smirk, he blocked the threshold and said, "Mom changed the locks today. She told me to tell you your stuff's being moved to the unheated garage studio out back. I need the master bedroom to build my streaming career, Claire." Pushing past his shoulder in utter disbelief, I stormed toward the dining room. There sat my mother calmly sipping tea. Right beside her teacup lay an open folder from a local notary containing a pre-drafted quitclaim deed transfer, a formal document intended to pressure me into signing legal ownership of my house over to Jason. I didn't yell. I didn't scream, smash dishes, or give them the explosive meltdown they were clearly expecting. Years of managing complex commercial blueprints had taught me that high-stakes battles aren't won through emotion. They are won through precision and documented leverage. I quietly picked up my work bag, walked back to my car, and drove straight to an extended stay hotel. Early the next morning, I retained Marcus Vance, a sharp real estate attorney with 30 years of litigation experience. I handed him everything: the original title deed in my name only, every mortgage statement from day one, exterior security footage showing the unauthorized locksmith changing my deadbolts, and photographs of the illegal deed transfer paperwork left on my dining table. Marcus immediately drafted formal, 30-day unconditional notices to vacate for all 3 occupants, which were served by a private process server that very afternoon. Next, I took surgical control of the infrastructure. I shut down the high-speed residential Wi-Fi, canceled the streaming packages, and removed my debit card from all linked grocery and utility accounts. The free ride was officially over. The 30-day deadline expired on a bright Thursday morning. Throughout the month, my phone had been flooded with venomous voicemails from my parents, claiming family couldn't legally evict family and daring me to try. They genuinely believed their parental authority superseded property law. At precisely 9 in the morning, 2 marked county sheriff cruisers and a commercial moving crew pulled up to my curb. I stood on the sidewalk beside my attorney while 2 armed deputies walked up the front steps and knocked hard. When my father opened the door, his smug expression instantly drained into pure, unvarnished panic. The deputies presented the court-ordered writ of possession, giving all 3 of them exactly 20 minutes to grab essential personal items before being escorted off the premises. Jason threw a tantrum on the front lawn, screaming about his rights, while the moving crew systematically boxed up their belongings and carried them straight out to the driveway. Neighbors gathered on their porches, watching the entire spectacle unfold. For the first time in 6 months, I stepped across my own threshold as the undisputed owner. The fallout was swift, messy, and absolute. Over the following weeks, extended relatives I hadn't spoken to in a decade came out of the woodwork, leaving furious messages branding me an ungrateful, heartless monster. I didn't engage in a single argument. I simply blocked every phone number, email address, and social media profile connected to them, completely severing the financial lifeline they had abused for so long. 2 months later, I put the house on the market. The market was booming, and the sale netted a substantial 6-figure profit that wiped out any remaining trace of their exploitation. I packed my essentials and purchased a sleek, 2-bedroom high-rise condominium in downtown Chicago, complete with 24-hour biometric security and private elevator access where uninvited guests could never set foot again. Sitting on my quiet balcony, looking out over the illuminated skyline, I realized that blood relation does not grant a free pass for entitlement or manipulation. Real peace begins the precise moment you stop setting yourself on fire just to keep toxic people warm. What would you have done in my situation? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, subscribe to BT Revenge Tales, and I'll see you in the next story.